Sound Art introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home by combining the best of two products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. Sound Art ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Six races in, the NORC iRacing Series field either knows what it needs to do to fight for title contention, or in the case of Daniel Falkingham, is already doing it. Tonight, the NORC iRacing Series takes us to the first state, the concrete jungle of Dover Downs. Welcome to the NORC iRacing Series on Pit Stop TV. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV. I've got the amazing Eric Brennan and Trey Shuttlesworth alongside on the mic this evening. Emerson Arden is out and around the racetrack grabbing photos for our social media platforms this evening on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we join you this evening from the virtual Dover International Speedway. It's fantastic to be back alongside all of you for Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube coverage this evening as we get set to go for 150 laps, 150 miles, heads up versus Miles the Monster in all the sunshine that virtual Dover, Delaware has to offer. We take a look now at the concrete 1.6 kilometers that these drivers have up against them this evening. It's a very cut and dry oval. 9 degrees of making on the straightaways, though. I think that's the big thing that will catch these drivers out. I'm out of turns 2 and 4, and the car is just going to be a little bit upset. And looking at this, I now see that turn 1 is labeled as turn 3, vice versa. Anyhow, imagine, if you will, that the corners are labeled correctly, and we've got a racetrack here at Dover International Speedway that makes a little more sense than this. Regardless, a very highly banked oval here, Eric. They call it a self-cleaning racetrack for a reason. Usually when you have a problem, you wad up towards the wall at first, and then you come wiping right back down onto the apron, or quite honestly on the straightaways, into that hard inside wall.
Yeah, indeed. And you hit the nail on the head as far as describing the characteristics of this racetrack. And I'm going to admit I have a lot of bias with this venue because it is the track that I've gone to the most Major League stock car events, being from the New York area. This is a home track. And one of the most unique terms that many drivers use to describe the attitude that Dover has is that it's like a roller coaster. And that's not proverbial. A lot of the racing venues that we visit on the NORC slate, when you enter the corner, you drive up into the banking. Here at Dover, when you go into turns 1 and 3, you actually kind of fall off into the corner before that 24 degrees of banking catches you. And as you mentioned, then on corner exit, you have to rise back up to that 9 degrees. It sounds a little bit counterintuitive as far as how things should work with a banked racetrack, but that's what makes Dover so much fun. But it's also why when things go wrong here, it's usually pretty spectacular.
Yeah, those are some excellent points that you bring up, Eric. And I'm in the same boat as you. Technically, if you're looking at places where NASCAR National Series go to, Pocono's a bit closer, but I've been to Dover quite a bit, and it is just an absolute amazing place to see stock cars wrestled, race cars around, just because, yeah, quite frankly, it is Bristol on steroids, if you will. It combines a lot of those characteristics of racing at Bristol, where the confines are incredibly tight, with the speeds that you'll see at intermediate racetracks. And it really presents for a very unique challenge for the virtual race car drivers that are taking to the track tonight. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, another thing that I see as unique for this racetrack is the fact that normally when you go on a racetrack and a racetrack in iRacing, it seems like you're either fighting with tightness or like a tight turn radius off of the exit of the corner, or you're fighting with a car that can be very oversteery and loose. And this is a racetrack where both of those things can come and bite drivers very easily.
I would certainly agree with that, Trey Shuttlesworth. This racetrack will get you no matter how it wants to get you. You can actually see a great view of the front stretch right here where you come out of turn 4, you actually rise up a whole lot more, especially if you're on the bottom line than at a lot of racetracks. And it really does feel a bit like a rallycross jump. You come up that jump, you land back down for the better portion of the straightaway, then you go back uphill a little bit before you drop down into turn 1 or turn 3, depending on which end of the racetrack you're on. This is certainly a monster of a racetrack. Pun kind of intended, but also not. I think realistically, this is simply just a monster of a racetrack. It's tough to get your hands around. We'll take a look at the standings coming into this evening. 6 races in, as I mentioned, top of the show, and Daniel Falkingham has claimed half of them. Zoltan Herzeg now enters in the new second place position. Tyler Justice falls back after tornadoes impacted his area and forced him to drop off of the sim last week at Road Atlanta. David Schutt, he moves into that 4th spot. Cody Miller back up into the top 5. Chad Oxendine joins him just 1 more point back. So actually you got 3rd and 4th separated by 1 point. 5th and 6th separated by 1 point. And then we have a 3-way tie, 9th, 10th, and 11th. A whole lot is going on in these standings.
And as you can see by the depiction of our graphic here, top 12 are going to make their way into the chase at the end of the season to help decide a championship. And it's not by virtue of wins. It's just straight up top 12 in points. The wins obviously help, but look at that battle at the cut line. As Andrew just alluded to, that 3-way battle, 9th through 11th. Then you got a small gap to Tommy Gossett, who holds that final spot locked into the playoffs as of now. And then Zach Lindgren, only 2 out. Then you got Sheldon Lockie, Howie Briss, who was the biggest mover in the points last time out. After the math was done, he picked up about 6 spots in the standings, and Bobby Chaney, who plummeted out of playoff contention by result of the way in which the points were tallied after Road Atlanta, he's now on a bit of a comeback trail there in 16th. There's a lot of really good names outside that cut line right now. We still got a good bit of racing left to go as far as till we get to the playoff time, but I'll tell you what, Trey, you know, for some of these guys, they got to start to sweat this out, and this is a racetrack where you can make up a lot of ground, but surely one mistake could cost you an opportunity, or at least put you behind the 8 ball and force you to have to battle your way back.
Yep, that's an excellent point, Eric. And yeah, you look at the point standings there, and just across the board, incredibly tight, looking at the fact that a lot of drivers are within that one race zone of falling in or out of contention. But yeah, we go into qualifying now. 2 laps will be available for drivers to try to set a quick time tonight here at Dover. But otherwise, yeah, like you said, punishments are going to come swiftly and harshly here at Dover, just considering the fact that these drivers will have 0 fast repairs available tonight.
Zach Lindgren on the speedway making his first timed lap. It looks like Pancari so far fastest. Spencer Ray sits second. You see Terrell Baker currently third. I'm sure a lot of this is going to change. Only a few drivers, though, have times in. Lindgren, the slowest of the bunch so far. We'll see if that changes on lap number 2. Michael Keithley is also out on the 1 mile speedway. And the number 53, Shrek Ford Mustang. Will Klein goes fastest, and he will abort, it looks like, whatever lap was after that, if there was one after that. However, Femi Olot making his first start all season. That's why we don't even have a number graphic for him on the left side on your ticker. This is his chance to defend the last couple of races here at Dover. He won both Season 9 and Season 11 here at the Dover International Speedway, looking to maybe make it another one, make it 3 in a row at this racetrack. Where does he go in qualifying? He may have picked up a bit of wall contact, doesn't put himself on the timing sheet. We'll see if that changes the next time through. We, of course, have our schedule that we can take a look at. Of course, all the rest of the races left as Falkingham goes purple in this qualifying session. We check in race number 7 this evening, 150 laps at Dover International Speedway. Homestead Miami Speedway, I'm actually quite excited for that one next week, Eric. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do riding high, wide, and handsome up against the wall. iRacing Super Speedway, Iowa Speedway, Nashville Fairgrounds, a lot of really diverse races coming up. Then we go to Auto Club for 100 laps, the Talladega Duels there at 13-14, then Martinsville, Road America, Atlanta, and Legacy Daytona. That's your run to the chase.
Yeah, then once you do get to the chase, you got Indy, Texas, the Bristol Dirt event on round number 21 of the season, Darlington, Phoenix, Chicagoland, championship decided in Vegas. I love the diversity of this series, Trey Shuttlesworth, because it truly puts the best of the best in the position to kind of put themselves atop the standings with pride. It's not a matter of luck. You got to be good on every type of racetrack, and even a handful of super speedways. We still got 4 left if you count the 2 duels at Talladega, iRacing Super Speedway, and Legacy Daytona. I mean, there's a chance for a lot of guys here to get themselves up into the mix, especially if they haven't quite figured out the road course, the short track, or the intermediate programs.
Yeah, all around, Eric, this schedule, I think another thing that it does very effectively, it makes it so that you can never get into a rhythm if you're someone that is effective on, say, intermediates or road courses, because it's always switching up the type of racetrack that we're going at. I look at the schedule, Homestead's an intermediate, then we go to a super speedway, then it's 2 short tracks, right back to a large intermediate racetrack or something a bit larger than that, back to the super speedways, and we just continue with that series of inconsistency, and it's going to make things really fun all the way getting into the chase.
A lot going on, certainly, here in NORC Season 13. So we'll step away from that, get back to our qualifying coverage then, as we are down to about 20 seconds left. Falkingham, you can see him atop the scoring pylon, but one driver might be looking to change that right quick. It's Zoltan Herzeg on the speedway. What can he do in the number 96 Chevrolet Camaro up out of turn number 4? This will be the only lap that he gets. How good is it? 10 times the board so far, and he goes to pole. Zoltan Herzeg, not necessarily record-shattering at a 23:18, but it's fastest by 1/1000th of a second over Daniel Falkingham, and that nets the driver of the 96 pole this evening. How about that for a last-second change-up on our starting grid? And speaking of the starting grid, we'll get straight down to it. You see the field starting to populate the pit lane. On pole this evening, just talked a whole lot about it. Zoltan Herzeg, Season 12 champion in the NORC iRacing Series, qualifies first. Will start first this evening from Dover Downs, alongside last week's winner, Daniel Falkingham, in the number 20 Chevrolet Camaro. Starting 3rd place this evening, Will Klein. Starting 6th, Tom Mercier. Pretty good starting spot for him. Starting 5th position, rather, would be John Berry in the 74. Brett Pancari rolls off 6th. Starting 7th, it'll be Spencer Ray. 8th, Howie Briss. And to finish out the top 10, it's Terrell Baker and Bobby Chaney.
Take it back to the inside of row 6. Cole Freilig's back in action. Car 15 to roll off an 11th spot. And Ariotti in the 23 and 12. 13th, Hayes Booth trying to get a good run here tonight. And Zach Lindgren trying to get back into playoff contention. He's a couple points out. He'll be rolling off from 14th spot here tonight when we go green. Cody Miller, Daytona winner, going to roll off in 15th spot. And Michael Keithley in the 53. Always mixing things up with the paint scheme on that car. He'll be starting outside of row number 8 tonight. Back to 17th spot. Dallas by hand to the 41. That's a name that we have not seen much this season so far. And Femi Olot, as Andrew mentioned, back in action with that Interstate Batteries number 18. That Supra will be coming from the 18th spot. And rounding out our top 20 here tonight, Aaron Smith in car 70 after the great run at Road Atlanta, and David Shutt in car 5.
And as we look at the final third half of the field, or not half, just third of the field, if you will, it's all going to be drivers that haven't set a qualifying time tonight. And there's a fair amount of talent back here, such as in the 21st position, it is your North Wilkesboro winner, Chad Oxendine, and that's going to be Spencer Owens to his outside in the 22nd position. 23rd will be Jared Darling, and he will be accompanied in the 24th position by Sheldon Lockey. Now we look at the likes of Sean Williams and Elijah Gracia making up the 25th and 26th positions on this starting grid. Just a couple more rows to go over here at Dover International Speedway. Next, we have Patrick... There's Scott Shire in the inside of the 27th position, and it'll be Patrick Colby to his outside in the 28th spot. 29th will be Josh Robin, and then it'll be Taylor Frey, and then we have one more driver rounding out the field. We saw him win in the BRP. It's actually Justin Ford gridded in the 31st position. My apologies there. It'll be 31 cars to round out the field here at Dover International Speedway.
A very diverse field as per usual this evening. Everybody getting up onto the banking, getting ready to go for 150 laps. It's a bit shorter than some races that have been run here in the NORC iRacing Series at Dover, a bit longer than others. But 150 laps, 150 miles, about half of what you'd normally see in a NASCAR Xfinity Series race. Getting ready to go green, the entire field of 31 coming to you through the high banks at Dover down. Zoltan Herzeg on pole, Daniel Falkingham outside of him. And we will, of course, turn things over to the one, the only Terrell Baker to start this one off. TCB, take it away.
All right, boys, here we are here at the Monster Mile. I'll be here outside to get a good old Monster Mile.
Green flag down the backstretch. Zoltan Herzeg takes the lead off and away. Daniel Falkingham follows. Everybody just filing in, finding their position to complete this first lap, and Zoltan Herzeg will lead it.
Herzeg, who picked up his third pole of the season in qualifying by the narrowest of margins over the point leader, now maintains about a 2-car length advantage through turn 1. You see Falkingham second in line, slide up off the bottom a little bit. Everybody hugging the inside lane early on in the going in this one. Falkingham with a peak down low in 3. He'll duck back in line as Herzeg parades the field through 3 and 4. And if these drivers stay in this type of formation, these laps are going to click off relatively quickly early on.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly orderly start, I'd have to say, considering the fact that it's only going to be 150 laps here at Dover International Speedway tonight. And ultimately, I looked at the field, and I don't see a double wide battle until we get outside the top 10. We see Hayes Booth currently to the inside on that 11th position. I believe he's challenging on either Femi Ola or, it's actually the 24 car there of Bobby Cheney, who's starting to drop down the leaderboard as it's Ola now getting past him.
And Femi Olot drops down to the bottom side in front of Bobby Cheney. You see Bobby now with trouble from behind. That is Cody Miller, Daytona race winner, moving up to the inside of the 24 car. They'll do battle down to the bottom side now of turn number 3. David Shutt in behind these two. So a lot of great names mixed all the way through this field. Of course, we started this one off with Terrell Baker. He is now in the 8th position, right behind Spencer Ray, who's making a move on Brett Pancari. This is big. That 6 car starting to move a little bit north in this race, and Terrell going to follow. He's going to move up to 7th spot. This lap number 5 now of 150, and the 25 is looking promising. So all you TCB fans, I know there's a lot of you out there, you've got something to cheer for this evening. Missed last week at Road Atlanta, and he is back with a vengeance.
Yeah, and so far he looks really, really good, and he appears complacent to follow Spencer Ray up towards the front of the pack, and I'm really interested to see what Spencer Ray could do here tonight. He's somebody who's very versatile as far as his experience on the sim. We saw him qualify very well at North Wilkesboro. Granted, that's a short track. Dover, a totally different animal, but he is all over the backside of John Berry here in what's going to be a battle for a top 5 spot. I like the way that Ray's getting off the corner. Gets a good run here, kicks Berry up off the bottom lane, and this is a side-by-side battle for 5th, and I think TCB is going to try and follow off too. No, Berry slams the door as they come down the backstretch.
Overall, a very effective utilization of momentum off the exit of the corner by Ray, and this early in the race, it was also an intelligent move by Berry. Knowing that this is a race where full fuel is being utilized, you're really going to have to push those tires all the way to the end of their lifespan, so the more you battle, especially early in the run, it's just the quicker you're going to fall off that cliff in terms of the tire grip available to you as a race car driver.
Zoltan Herzeg still leading the conga line down the backstretch now into turns 3 and 4. Once more, we'll complete lap number 8 this time by. And Falkingham is kind of slotted into that second spot right where he started, is just holding nice and tight right now. And I like everything I've seen this season from this guy. We've been talking about it a lot, obviously, especially since he grabbed that first win at Kansas. He's led so many laps this season. He's completed every one of those laps as well. Just everything that Daniel's got going for him this season looks fantastic. He's won half of the races so far. He's taken his win total from 4 up to 7 in the league as a whole. He's almost doubled that, and we're only just over a fifth of the way into this season, Eric. Everything that he's doing is looking good. He's out here challenging another one in the second spot and just riding around. Obviously, everybody's trying to ride around right now. Get what you can get if you can. Otherwise, just find a rhythm.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I mean, this is a driver who's doing everything that he has to, and he's doing it right. And I want to give you a lot of credit, Andrew. I mean, you put together an incredible stat sheet for us before we come on the air for these broadcasts, and Falkingham is one of only 3 drivers who have run all the laps so far this season. And not only has he run them, he's run them well. I mean, he's pretty much finished in the top 10 just about every race that was run, at least in all the races that were counted towards his championship contention, and 4 top 5s, all of which carry, of course, the 3 wins that he's got this season. And he missed out on the pole by 0.02 of a second. He's done all this, even with the emotional win he had last week on the road course at Road Atlanta. We think this may be his time, his year, and I think, Trey, when we hear him talk about the success he's had so far in 2021 and season 13 of NORC, he's very humble. None of it is getting to his head. He's not overconfident, and he's still well aware at how strong this field is, and he's able to continue that pace each and every week, despite the fact that, you know, he has had enough success to brag about, boast about. He backs it up on the racetrack, and he has done none of the sorts. He's a really well-rounded driver, a great person, and really quick so far, no matter what type of track we're at, and he's running second.
All I can do there with you, Eric, is absolutely agree with what you said about race car driver Daniel Falkingham, at least, you know, virtual race car driver here in the NORC iRacing series. But yeah, especially at this point of the season, this will be round 7. We're starting to get to the midpoint of the regular season, and it could be a place where you could very easily really just get comfortable, get too comfortable, and you could very quickly fall down the point standings leaderboard. But no, at least so far tonight at Dover, I think he's doing a pretty consistent job here, obviously in the second position, and I think it's just been reflective of the season he's had so far.
Riding around about 142, the slowest speed in the corner. Pumps back up onto the back straight. We'll see what he gets up to down the straightaway. But just everything from Daniel has been nice and consistent, nice and championship, I think, esque. Certainly, everything's been good this far, and I don't know how you can count against the 20 car, but if you're going to count for somebody to possibly get up there and beat him in that championship, it's the guy he's chasing currently. Zoltan Herzeg led every lap so far. It's only been 15. We're now on lap 16 as, oh my, Howie Briss pounds the wall at a turn 2, and we've seen our first, not quite Darlington stripe, but Dover stripe, I suppose, as the 97 just gets a little bit tight. And this harkens back a little bit to what Trey Shuttlesworth was talking about, where Dover can certainly upset the car in several ways. It's not just getting loose, it's not just getting tight, as Shutt looks to the inside and Briss shuts the door. That time, pun definitely intended. But Howie Briss, you can see right there, might have even been in a 4-wheel slide. He could have had both conditions at the same time, Eric. Slid up the racetrack regardless, pounds the outside wall, and is quickly falling back.
And the problem with that is now those issues are only going to multiply with that damage. I mean, if you hit the wall that hard here, especially with these Xfinity cars, which we talk each and every week about how they have less downforce as opposed to the Cup counterparts, you could visibly see it there on the right front. I mean, he sustained significant contact with that wall slap off the corner, and he got very lucky that he didn't get run over while trying to come off. And you could see how much this car has tightened up since making contact. Brett Pincari's going to go by. That's about the 3rd spot that Briss has lost in the last 3 laps. And here comes Femi Olad, and I love that Dave Blaney throwback scheme that he's got on that car. Cole Freilich, that is, I should say, in the 15. I love that look he had. He looked very sporty at Road Atlanta, got taken out early, didn't get to display those old school Amoco colors throughout much of the night, but boy, Howie Briss is in trouble, especially if this race stays green. I think he's going to continue to plummet down the running order here if he does not catch a caution to get that car repaired.
Yeah, without a doubt, just for a number of factors, Dover is not a great place to be in this position where you have a lot of damage to your race vehicle, if you will. Just because cautions, at least based off of the evidence we have for the NORC iRacing series, cautions don't happen all too often here at Dover International Speedway. an average of about 4.6 cautions in the 6 or 7 races we've had in the NORC iRacing series at this racetrack. And then otherwise, if you do get those caution flags, there just isn't a whole lot of time for a pace lap to occur here at Dover. So you want to, or rather what I'm trying to say is, to get all of that damage repaired in, say, one go down on the pit lane can be quite difficult.
Watching a side-by-side battle, we got a spinner. Oh my god, we got a car up and over. Something's gone wrong. Spencer Ray is up and over down the backstretch. I was getting ready to talk about that battle with Cody Miller and Sean Williams, and suddenly there was smoke, and just about as suddenly we had Spencer Ray on his lid. This, I think, is only the second time that I've ever seen a car flip at Dover. Joey Logano was the first. Spencer Ray now does it. Boy, what happens here?
Remember, Ray was running up in the top 5. It looks like it's going to be the next lap through. And we talked about the strong run he had at North Wilkesboro, where he started up in the front 2 rows, got taken out early. Here he is trying to chase Tom Mercier, who we haven't talked a lot about Tom tonight. He's having an amazing run himself up here in about the 4th position at the time of this wreck. Ray is about a car length off. See Mercier there, kind of clipped the apron, washes up the racetrack. A big run for Ray, and they tangle off the corner. Mercier spins pretty much without much consequence. Booth was the first one to hit Ray, and then it looked like that was the 18 that finally set him up on his lid.
And with the way these races are at Dover, I get the feeling that might not be the last time we see a car go end over end here tonight. Of course, it's a pretty short race, but that can really just, I would say, increase the tension and increase the aggression. And yeah, just purely an early racing incident at Dover International Speedway. And it's unfortunate to see the likes of, and if Femi Olak gets away with no damage, that is just an incredible drive to walk away from that. But it's unfortunate to see Hayes Booth, yet again, someone that has a lot of strong short run pace, going to be in a position where he's going to have to climb up a pretty tall ladder, if you will.
I think Femi's going to be okay out of this. I don't know how, but I think the driver for Joe Gibbs Racing is going to be all right. I mean, he's the one who sends the 6 up and over. There's at least no visual damage. You can see nothing on the nose of that race car. There's no way of telling just yet, at least for us, if he is going to have any engine damage. But Eric, if this 18 car is completely okay, I'm going to throw out everything I know about iRacing. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I love that onboard view because you saw the difference between a driver who has so much experience on the sim, like that of Femi Olot, and Hayes Booth. And now, we love Hayes. Hayes actually works with us on the platform from time to time, calling some of these races. But you saw the moment that the smoke appeared, Olot immediately got off the throttle and slowed that car down. Now, granted, he still was able to ramp Spencer Ray up skyward, but Hayes Booth went barreling into that wreck. He sustained a ton of damage because of how fast he arrived on the scene and made contact with the stationary car, while Olak got it slowed down enough. It's certainly bizarre and quirky to watch how that all played out, but nevertheless, he's able to live to fight another day, and Hayes Booth has enough damage to put him out of contention right now, and he sits about in the 30th position. So that's the difference between somebody who's, been around the block a few times on the sim, is used to seeing things like that happen as we're a half lap away from the restart, and somebody who was a little bit more rambunctious that time. We also got some pit strategy that's unfolded here.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eric. As we get ready to restart here, it looks like about the top 6 or 7 cars are actually going to stay out on the racetrack, so they're going to be on slightly older Goodyear tires. Of course, these guys tonight will only have 3 sets of additional tires available to them.
Everybody will climb on back, including Zoltan Herzeg, Ariati, Tom Mercier, Sean Williams, Femi Olot. They all pitted and will restart a bit further back in this field. The top 6, Falkingham, Barry, Cheney, Freilich, Owens, Darling, they stay out. And Falkingham, a fantastic restart, launches up and away, and drives away from the 74 on the restart. John Barry follows in behind, a battle for third starting to pick up, and Cheney and Freilich will single file out.
And here comes Will Klein on the top of the racetrack, trying to make use of that fresh rubber, trying to get by these cars quickly. He rim rides the top around the outside of Bobby Cheney, cuts it down low on Freilich off turn 4. If we want to see how much tires matter, Trey, we're seeing it right here early. Just 25 laps in, now 26 on the board. And look at how much faster Will Klein is with that fresh rubber. He is rocketing his way to the front, and he's got Herzeg not that far behind him.
Yeah, and this might only be about, say, a quarter of a full fuel run that these drivers were putting on their Goodyear tires, at least the drivers that stayed out on the tires that are about 25 lap older than the rest of their competitors. But yeah, we're just seeing absolutely pure raw pace right now out of Klein, and I think he's going to very quickly get the opportunity to lead some laps here in Nork.
This just feels very, very early to have pitted. I mean, obviously it's working in the short term, but if you figure you've got 3 sets of tires, I don't know. They might come a little closer to lap 40 possibly for that pit stop. Will Klein, nonetheless, though, I mean, he just makes it look like the 20 is standing still, and Zoltan Herzeg will do the same. Will Klein, new race leader at Dover, quickly by Daniel Falkingham, quickly brings Zoltan Herzeg through, and here comes everybody else on those new tires. Femi Olot, Terrell Banker, and more coming up and by the 20 car.
Yeah, this trail of 4 is pretty much just cut a trail to the front. They've all gotten themselves up in the top 4 positions while everybody else starts to fade back who elected to stay out on the racetrack. And here's the fight for the lead. Herzeg's going to have a peak down low on Klein. We're door-to-door for the top spot in 1 and 2 with Herzeg starting to squeeze out in front, and they'll take the lead away on the backstretch.
And it's not going to be much, and he has quite a bit of competition behind him. We saw Femi Olot start outside of the top 10, and with a little bit of strategy and a little bit of perseverance through that instant, already up into that second position here on lap 30, only about 20% of the way into the running at Dover.
Pro driver in the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series for a reason. Femi Olot up to the second spot just like that. After flipping a car down the backstretch, he is now in the second position and ready to pounce on this number 96 Chevrolet Camaro of Zoltan Herzeg. Zoltan Herzeg, the winner at Kentucky. He's looking great on these intermediate, you can call Dover a short track, I think, but certainly intermediate racetracks so far, I think, has mirrored Daniel Falkingham's pace on these somewhat larger racetracks. This could be his first big competition not named Daniel. Femi Olot makes this start the first time all season, shows up and is ready to defend his last 2 wins here at the Dover International Speedway. And I mentioned that he got those last 2 wins in Season 9 and Season 11. You have to go all the way back to Season number 2 in the NASCAR Xfinity cars at the time in 2015 to find the first race here at Dover in Nork. Marcus Richardson won that one. Bobby Zelensky won here in 2016 in Season 4. Ariati in the field this evening, won in Season 6 in 2017, but Femi Olot won in Seasons 9 and Season 11.
Yeah, and I think, what's that racing cliche that we use? He's already made a deposit from the luck bank as far as when the front hood of that Interstate Battery Supra served as a launch ramp for Spencer Ray in that crash on the back straightaway. So I think he kind of knows that he got away with one there, and he may not be too aggressive at this point in the race. We're not even a third of the way through this 150-lapper, and as we mentioned many a times, that at least this top 2 has already gone through a bit of a tire change, make that the top 4, and I believe Cody Miller and Elijah Gracia have also been a part of the same strategy as Falkingham has fallen back to 9th, but I wouldn't expect Olot to apply too much pressure just yet. And also keep in mind, for those of you who may not follow the Nork slate all that often, there are no stage breaks in this competition. We run straight through. Of course, we'll have cautions in the event of an incident, but there is no scheduled or timed caution that these drivers are vying for, and that's one of the things that I love about this series, because it truly helps mix up the strategy, and there's a lot of unknowns here. We think some of these guys may have pitted a little bit too early, but if this race stays green for a while, they may be in the catbird seat because the competition is going to have to come down about 25 laps sooner than they may. So a lot still to unfold here as we see one of the early race leaders in Falkingham now running back in the 9th spot.
And I would have to say, with the older tires, it's a very respectable job that Falkingham's doing. And if he is to get a caution here in, say, 10 or 20 laps, I think he's going to be in a good position. And additionally, if you consider the fact that maybe some of his competitors will want to come down and elect to get another set of tires, I don't know that would be the wisest decision. But regardless, it's going to open up the opportunity for drivers like Falkingham to potentially have an additional set of tires near the back end of the race if we get a series of caution flags here. It's going to be a driver who hasn't logged a lot of starts here in Nork, I don't think, getting past him, and that is Taylor Frey moving into the top 10, along with Howie Briss, who is now cleaned up that right side.
Taylor hasn't made many starts this season, but a longtime driver of the series, up in a 9th spot. Good to see him doing well this afternoon. But Falkingham just continuing to slide back now outside the top 10 for the first time in, well, at least 2 races, considering last week he led every single lap at the road course at Road Atlanta. John Barry has fallen just about equidistant with the number 20 of Daniel Falkingham, and they're soon going to have Michael Keithley and Ariati and more driving up to them, and it looks like that's about it for the drivers who took tires on that caution. Aside from guys who have some damage, it looks like Well, we can say Chad Oxendine. He is mired back here in the 18th position. He's the next driver to have pitted, but he took only 6.4 seconds on the pit lane. Wonder if that was fuel only. Possibly the same for Tom Mercier, who is still back here, isn't showing a ton of speed. So not really sure what's going on with those guys. We know the strategy up front, of course, was tires and to get back on the racetrack and pick up some time, and that's clearly worked. Zoltan Herzeg, Femi Olot, Will Klein, they've eked out this massive gap, including Terrell Baker, on everybody else. You can see as the gap is growing, we'll take these statics once more. You can see just how much space there is from the top 4 on back to 5th, and Cody Miller, even more of a gap back to Elijah DeGracia, Patrick Colby, and more. So this is incredible what these guys are doing up front, but of course, on those new tires. And you raise the fantastic point, Eric, that if this does go green, of course, it looks like it's starting to go the way of these drivers who have pitted. But if we get a late race caution, I think the drivers who stayed out on this yellow, as long as they're still in contention, are going to use this knowledge back and the fact that they just might have that extra set of tires on them to, well, drive by them at the finish. I think that's so important. I think sacrifice the pace early on to make sure you have it later.
I agree with you 100%, Andrew, and I think that the only caveat to that potential strategy is what we're about to see unfold here, lap traffic. If you are someone who elected to stay out here, you've got to make sure that you're able to stay on the lead lap. Now, the lap cars so far have been very friendly, but as they start to work their way up towards what will be the top 20 in this field, they may not be as cooperative. They're going to know that in order for their strategy to pay off, some of the drivers who have fallen back by virtue of staying out are not going to want to fall a lap down, because that could unravel their race entirely. And as these leaders get up in the lap traffic tray, we talk about it a lot on road courses, but catching lap traffic at Dover could be just as challenging as what we saw 1 week ago at Road Atlanta. If you catch a car in the wrong place, I think the worst place would be off the corner. Not only could it cost you a position, it could cost you a race car. I mean, these guys got to be super careful getting around the back half of this field.
Yeah, that you present a lot to unpack there, Eric. All around, if you're the driver that's ahead, that's trying to be respectful of the leaders, it's just a lot to worry about, having to look in your mirror and also hit your marks, and that could lead you to very easily making a mistake on the racetrack. And I think the other thing that's going to make it tough for the leaders as we see this overtake occur here is just the fact that we're mostly seeing a very single file Dover International Speedway, and in real life you might see a little bit more multi-groove Dover International Speedway, but we're really only seeing about one lane really prevail effectively so far, and that is Klein moving himself up into the second position past Femi Olot.
Checking in on the situation for the driver of the 6 car in Spencer Ray. Sometimes, you know, you damage your race car, maybe blow the motor here in iRacing, and you get, I don't know, half an hour to 40 minutes of repairs that you have to take before getting back onto the speedway. No, not quite like that for Spencer Ray. It was somewhere to the tune of 51 and a half minutes of repairs that the driver of the 6 car would have had to sit through this evening if he wanted to get back into competition here at Dover. So you can certainly understand if he takes an early exit of this one. I mean, we could get this whole race in before he gets back onto the racetrack for too many laps. Brent Pancari drives on by Elijah Gracia, this for the 6th position. There is a car up ahead of these guys, and Cody Miller, that's kind of on his own. He's worked in front of it, looks like Hayes Booth, a lap car. No, that's Dallas Myhand. And actually, this is a great time to mention Dallas Myhand, who has not made a start this season either. This is his first start of the season. I'm not even sure exactly if he made any starts in season 12. It's been a while since I've seen Dallas in the field. Good to see him out here this evening. Much like, Femi Olot, who, well, Dallas just pounded the wall there down the straightaway. Maybe this is why he hasn't made too many starts yet. I know a lot of these guys, they don't always race these NASCAR Xfinity Series style cars, Eric, and the way they handle can certainly catch you off guard. He catches me off the guard all the time.
Yeah, we talk about how there's a lack of downforce compared to the Cup cars, and it's evident on the back spoiler. I mean, that was a big talking point with the Cup race that took place at Darlington this past weekend, and the fact that you really have to drive these cars a lot differently than you would on the Cup side, and I think it's also a reason why we're starting to see this battle for the lead materialize. They're going to be coming up on the back of Sean Williams. That's the blue car with the white trim just in front of your leader, Zoltan Herzeg, but Will Klein appears to have a really good long-run race car. We saw him make the pass on Femi Olot for second. Now he's all over the backside of Herzeg for the lead, and I think that's something that this car allows the opportunity for. If you're able to manage your tires throughout the duration of a run, it gives you a chance perhaps to be able to be more aggressive at the end of the stint. And I think that's where Will Klein is starting to prevail here, because he is certainly looking a tick quicker than that of the cars around him, and he's continuing to apply pressure on Herczeg for the lead.
All around, yet again, Eric, great points that you present. But yeah, you're right. We're probably about a little bit shy of halfway into a full run here, and he's doing just an incredible job of maintaining his tires. And if you're someone that did an effective job of maintaining your tires, this is when you're really going to start to reap the benefits. And fortunately for him, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, he's going to have a lot of lap traffic to either assist him or hurt him, depending on how he's able to use it. I would think conventionally here at Dover that the leader's probably the one that's going to be at the disadvantage, just because of them attacking that lap car initially, and it can get quite awkward, as we mentioned earlier, especially off the exit of the corner.
Riding on board with Will Klein, working a lap 53 of 150. And Zoltan Herczeg about to lap David Schutt. Now, if you had told me on lap 53, just past a third of the way into this race, that David Schutt would about to be lapped by Zoltan, after starting and racing together early in this race, I would have called you crazy. David Schutt about to go one lap down, and David's riding around to the 23rd spot. Maybe he has some damage from that early incident, but I think it really comes down to the fact that, oh no, he's definitely got some damage. In fact, I look at the timing for his last pit stop, and I mean, 53 seconds in the pit lane is quite a while. So he's definitely knocked the wall down at the right side of that iRacing.com Chevrolet Camaro, starting to fall back, and Will Klein should go on by as well. But look at this gaggle of race cars up ahead. Aaron Smith is one of them. It looks like Cole Freilich in this group, Sheldon Lockie, and this is where things are going to get tough. Much to your credit, Eric, you're talking about lap traffic. Well, if it hadn't already started, it's about to get a whole lot worse.
And I think David Schutt was the first example of that, where he was not so ready to pull aside and let the top three get by with ease. He put up a bit of a fight there with the leader in Herczeg, and I expect that trend to continue with all the cars that are up ahead. You mentioned them. You got Freilich next in line, followed by Smith and Lockie. Those are the three cars in which Herczeg is trying to get up and around here on this long green flag run, and they're going to be double wide up in front of him. Freilich there battling the back end of his car. You saw him get sideways on the straightaway as he got up off turn 2. This is going to make things interesting for the lead on the front stretches. Now Herczeg is trapped down low on Lockie. He clears him off 4, but it's certainly allowing Will Klein to close and look for a way by. So far, they remain very close together as Freilich almost bounced off a Lockie just behind him in front of Femi Olot.
And Olot has been essentially trapped there because of the double wide battle ahead of him. Now eventually he will get to the inside of this pair on the entry to turn 3. Still not too far behind, only 6 or 7 tenths of a second behind the leaders. But we can very easily see how any, run of momentum you might have can be very easily and quickly subdued here at Dover. Looks like we will get a little bit of a break here after Aaron Smith, and we've already are starting to break into about the top 20 or so cars that are starting to go a lap down.
And this is the first time these drivers have really had to deal with lap traffic in this capacity. You go back to Daytona, obviously, well, it's Daytona. We'll just leave that there. Kansas Speedway, it was very clean and green, but there's a lot of room to race, and it's not quite as big of a... it's a larger racetrack, so obviously there's more room for cars to fit, but at the same time, I don't think you lose pace quite as easily. We didn't see any big incidents slowing anybody down, so we just didn't have to deal with lap traffic quite like this. Kentucky was much of the same, Michigan much of the same, North Wilkesboro, well, we had a lot of cautions, kept the field together. Road Atlanta last week, it was a road course. Tons of room, of course, with where to put cars. This evening, the first time we've really put these drivers in this kind of situation where there's a lot of differences in speed, a lot of ways you can screw up here at Dover, and a lot of ways that you can be faster. This is what we like. NASCAR fans, this is what we like. This is what we want in the NASCAR Cup Series package. The opportunity, I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent here, the opportunity to have mistakes, the opportunity to make up time. This is fantastic racing over the course of a long run.
Say it louder for the people in the back, because I am on board with you there. And I love that you bring up the caution trend, and I want to give you credit, Andrew, again, because you give us a lot of ingredients to be successful on this broadcast, including a lot of trends. And, this race is kind of feast or famine as far as how many cautions to expect. Granted, the lap count has changed over the years, but we've had in 3 separate occasions in the 5 times in which NORC had previously run at Dover, we've had 4 cautions or less. We're now already a third of the way through this race, and we've only had one as leaders come up on the back of Josh Robin on the back straightaway, who is really trying to stay on the lead lap here. But we did have a couple of races back in Season 6 with 7 yellows, and then Season 9, same distance race, 150 laps, 9 cautions for 36 laps. So there's a chance things get a little bit wacky and crazy here towards the end of this thing, but right now everybody's minding their manners. But the racing has been incredible, and it remains close for the lead as Robin bounces off the wall at a 2.
And a great job of Robin there to stay up alongside the outside ball, and then a great reaction time from Ola to get out of his way as quickly as possible. It looks like it is going to be an early pit stop as a result for Robin, and I would have to expect that Josh will probably have to take 4 tires and probably want to even take some of that optional damage to repair, because his car is just going to be potentially, he might have suspension damage as a result of that.
He comes into the pit lane, he'll stop at his box, and he will take service. But look at this hornet's nest for race leader Zoltan Herczeg in the top 3, right back together. Blue, purple, and green doing battle as they get to the inside of Tom Mercier. They move Tom up out of the way, and he will let the leaders go on by. And we were talking about Tom Mercier having a fantastic run in that opening stint when everybody was on equal tires. Same with Bobby Chaney. He was doing good stuff. Now, they're each 1 lap down, having stayed out on tires. Unless we get a caution, they really have no opportunity to get back up there and make up this lap that they've lost, and they have less fuel, less tire life, less speed, a whole lot working against those guys who stayed out, but all they need is a caution or 2, and they're back in this race.
Yeah, I think if a caution was to come out now, we're so far into this run, they may be forced to try to come back down immediately. Maybe a couple would risk taking a wave around if all the lead lap cars elected to come down and stop, but they may need help with a few yellows back-to-back to try to take advantage of that. But how about this race at the front of the pack? We can't take our eyes off it because we have 3 cars separated by less than half a second, and that was after we saw Femi Ola kind of fall back after having some bad luck with some of the lap traffic. But I'm curious if Will Klein is just kind of riding right now. We see him get a really good run in the center of the corner as well as off of turn 2 the last few laps. He's able to hold that car down just a little bit lower, get a little bit more clean air on that left front fender, and he does not appear to have to wash up as wide as we're seeing Herczeg. And just as I say that, he seems to follow him in the tire tracks there in 1 and 2. But I think Will Klein is in a position knowing he's not going to try to stuff it down to the inside just yet because the pay window's not open, but he is certainly stalking his prey as far as filling up the mirrors of Herczeg for this top spot, with Olot doing the same, just kind of riding there in third. These 3 are in a league of their own right now.
And if these guys have the confidence to execute coming down onto the pit lane and then coming out of the pit lane, it might not be the worst idea in the world, because honestly, anytime you go side by side or try to make an overtake happen at Dover, it just purely eats away at the tires. Looking at timing and scoring, we're already seeing tire fall off of about 1.5 seconds off of the best lap times for these top guys near the front of the field. So, and it just continues to get worse and worse as we get longer into the run. So, yeah, as you said, Eric, I think as long as these guys just hang tight and they execute on the pit lane, I think that might be a better opportunity for them to try to make the overtake happen. Otherwise, it might be a good opportunity to wait until we get a lot of lap cars again, and that might be a good opportunity to do so.
Bobby Chaney went ahead and pitted as soon as he got lapped. And this is interesting. I'm actually very surprised that everybody's gone this far in this race. You don't have to go quite this far. You easily could have pitted once and be about ready to take another set of tires here if this race had gone green to this point. If you break it down, well, half and half would be 75-75. A quarter of this race would be about 38 laps. So I'm very, very surprised as now you see Chaney fighting to the inside of Klein. He'll now try and go to the inside of race leader Zoltan Herczeg. Does so easily, but look at that opportunity this opens up for Will Klein. Opens the door. He immediately goes down to the bottom side, ships it up the inside of the 96 car, and that door being opened by Bobby Chaney just changed hands of the race lead. And here comes Tom Mercier. This could repeat that process. We'll see what he does. Of course, right down to the bottom side, fights to the inside of both of these race leaders. This now has turned all of that lap traffic up on its head. It's now flowing in the reverse order.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we love about races, not only with low downforce like we were raving about earlier, but also with tire wear, because it creates a unique dynamic And let's talk a little bit about the pit lane. We're now seeing drivers like to come down and make green flag pit stops. Dover, as an oval racetrack, may hands down have one of the most difficult pit lanes to get on and off of. The transition from the 24-degree banking to the flat, as we see Cole Freilich, Sheldon Lockie, all coming in for service. We've seen in real-life settings many cars hit the attenuator that protects the end of the pit wall, or some of the tires that protect the inside of the retaining walls. Josh Robin is way off the pace out of turn 4 on the front straightaway. He might have gotten to the wall for the second time here tonight, as he is now 2 laps down in 22nd spot. But not only could you have a problem getting onto the pit lane here that may cost you time, it could also wad up your race car, and it could also put you in a position to get run over by somebody who's already pitted and traveling much faster than you. So as we hit the halfway point in this race, this long green flag run is really starting to spice things up here, and some of these front runners may be pressed to come down for service soon, but they've got to be careful.
All I can say, Eric, is that basically, yeah, what you said about it being terrifying to get down on the pit lane, it just makes it very risky and very aggressive to try and undercut happen here at Dover, or if you will, pitting a little bit earlier into a pit cycle, just because this is a racetrack where you'll very easily fall 1, maybe even 2 laps down during your early pitting opportunity. And then if you get that missed time caution flag from someone not executing down on the pit lane, very suddenly you could be trapped 1 or 2 laps down, or you have to take that wave around and you're on pretty well shredded Goodyear Eagles that are older than the competitors that stayed out.
Jared Darling, John Barry, they work into the pit lane. They'll come to the attention of their virtual crews this evening. This on lap 77 of 150. Things holding steady up front, although Femi Olot behind Scott Shire on the bottom side as they pass Michael Keithley. And Femi's just going to have to eat that one, have to stay behind the 4-car and wait for better opportunity. Sean Williams also in the pit lane. Everybody's starting to make their pit stops. This is a lot later than I expected. If anything, if they didn't break this race down into quarters and use each one of those sets of tires, I would have expected a thirds and come in and get 2 sets. This is interesting. The fact that they're going for a one-stop strategy. The entire field is, at least under green. Obviously, those leaders, they made 1 stop already, but I think you can still call this run to the finish a one-stop strat.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be contingent on the cautions. And as we talked about, here's Aaron Smith in the pit lane as well. I think for the guys who elected to stay out, even though they may have gotten burned by being out late, if we do get a late race yellow and they could somehow find their way back on the lead lap, having that extra set of tires in the bank could pay off for them, considering the fact that they burned through 1 set while a lot of these front runners are getting set to go through their second. Now, if the race stays green towards that latter stages, then everybody will still have a fresh set with that one-stop strategy you were just alluding to there, Andrew. So, and one of the drivers who was on the opposite end of that strategy is now coming to the pit lane. That is your 3-time winner and points leader, Daniel.
Oh, he sped.
Yeah, he was carrying a lot of speed. I don't see how he gets away without a penalty on that one.
Nice thing for us in this instance is if it was a pitting, a speeding violation on the entry of the pit lane, he'll have to serve that before his virtual pit crew can go over the wall and give him tires and fuel and such. So we'll get a pretty early indication for Folkingham. Very unfortunate just because he was on that off-sequence strategy from not pitting on that first caution flag, and he was running in the 10th position, doing a very respectable job on the older tires, and we do see the jack go up, so maybe he was able to avoid it.
It'll happen on the tail end of this pit stop. We'll see if he leaves immediately after the jack drops. Well, obviously there's no penalty. If he waits, there's no penalty for that. He must have really dropped the anchor as soon as he got through the speed gate and just... I don't know how he got away with that one. David Shutt also makes his stop. Daniel Folkingham just got away with one for sure that time through. Zoltan Hergzeg still leading this race. He's going to try and lap Sheldon Lockie, or actually I think Sheldon Lockie just drove back a lap ahead of where he previously was. I think just gained a lap from passing the 96 car of Zoltan Hergzeg. Here comes Cole Freilich. He'll try and do the same. Ariati there as well. Area past winner here at Dover. He is 1 lap down now in that lucky dog position. There's a lot going on. A lot of drivers getting lapped, getting unlapped, making pit stops. There's a whole lot to follow, but this is currently your lucky dog driver as Hergzeg obviously regained the lead, got back by Will Klein, and went and chased this 23 car down. 12th position is 1 lap behind the race leader.
And Folkingham was one of the later cars to come down for service that did elect to to stay out early in this race. So I think that would mean that we could expect these cars up at the front of the field to go perhaps another 20 to 30 laps or so before we can expect to see them come down. And that may put them in prime position, because then they're going to be able to, if the race stays green, have the freshest tires for the final third of this event and not have to come down again for another stop. So as far as when we could expect to see these leaders, it may turn into a bit of a strategy play. The top two have kind of left Femi Olot in the dust for now. That lead back to third is now grown to about 2.5 seconds. So if Olot wants an opportunity to try to make up some ground quickly, I would suggest an undercut by Olot if he wants to try to do such a thing here, even though it may rubber band back to bite him. But right now, these leaders have their hands full with cars that have come down for service. We're going to be 3 wide off the corner, and Shutt's off the wall.
And Shutt nearly made it 3 wide off the exit of the corner. Fortunately, everyone's able to walk away, and that was just incredibly tight. But I have to basically agree with you with what you said about Olot. The other thing that helps him potentially make that undercut call is the fact that he doesn't have to worry about points racing, and I think that opens the door for him to be a little bit more aggressive on the pit strategy.
We'll see what he does as Scott Shire works up to the back end of the 18 car, and well, here comes Daniel Falkingham as well. This will get rather interesting here when he has to come around and pass these drivers. Falkingham on that new set. These other guys, they've been on the racetrack now for 66 laps. Certainly, they have a ways to go. I think your thoughts are thereabouts correct, Eric. They've got another 15 laps on these tires, I'd say. We'll see when they opt to come in. I like your idea, though, for the 18 car. I think a short pit has got to be coming. It's a matter of when you do so. Is actually very relevant to this conversation. Terrell Baker is on the pit lane. He's already dropped the lap, so he must have lost a little bit of time in that run. The car looks okay. I don't think he's got much damage, if any, but he is down in the pit lane for service.
Yeah, after that restart from our one and only caution that came from the big wreck that we had on the back straightaway, remember, TCB was in that group of 4 cars that rocketed their way to the front. So I would consider him to be one of the first on this strategy, even though he faded as we came to the middle of this run, faded a little bit further back. Now, this is a big move right here. Falkingham is going to unlap himself here. He's going to be now just 1 lap down, but by the time that Herczeg comes down for service, I'm curious where Herczeg, Klein, and Olot and company are going to cycle out, because it's going to take at least 1 full lap for them to come down. And the pace that Falkingham is running right now, he may be able to flex himself back up in the top 5 when the dust settles.
Yeah, he's running at a blistering pace. If you look in relation to the competitors that haven't come down onto the pit lane yet, we're going to ride on board with Cody Miller as he ventures his way down onto the pit lane, and you're going to see, unfortunately, just gets a little bit tight. Just not being able to utilize the camera that he's used to when he's up on the racing surface, and that's going to be a massive loss of time. But yeah, Falkingham is currently running lap times that are about 1.5 seconds faster than the competitors who have not elected to come down onto the pit lane.
Cody Miller just had another problem. We'll take a look back at it. He's going to pit again after missing pit road the first time through. This is another replay right in front of race leader Zoltan Herczeg. Tries to come in, and who did he hit? Is that Justin Ford down there? I'm so surprised this doesn't draw yellow of any kind. I believe that was Justin Ford. And we'll take another look back, and we'll see what happened to Justin Ford. This is a fantastic illustration of what we were talking about early on with these issues. It looks like it may not have been the 00. I can't figure out exactly who it was, but oh boy. And the leaders still have to come in. As I say that, they are on the pit lane. Zoltan Herczeg will take us down and will come in for service along with Will Klein. They thankfully have gotten through. The interesting thing, I'm looking for the 18 car of Femi Olot. He has already pitted. So just about the time that we took that replay to show that issue with Cody Miller, the 18 car undercutted. You see that? 23:34 goes fastest in this race. Everything is falling together.
Yeah, he's pushing really, really hard on his outlap here, and I'm also interested to see how this running order shakes up, because as you can see on the ticker, Falkingham is ahead of Olot right there. This could end up being the battle for the lead, with Olot on a little bit fresher rubber here in the tune of about 10 laps. They're going to rocket their way by Herczeg and Klein. Olot should cycle through to the lead. Right now, Howie Briss and Scott Shire are atop the pylon right now. We'll see if they have to come down for service. I believe they are about 2 cars, the last 2 cars that have yet to come down. But look at Olot cut his way through traffic, and he may have played this strategy perfectly here.
And it wasn't an overcut by much at all. Maybe like 1 or 2 laps at maximum, but that very easily could have bought him 1, 2, 3 additional seconds out on the racetrack, just in terms of that pace that he benefits from. We are going to see Howie Briss come down onto the pit lane, and that's going to leave the lone driver of Scott Shire as someone that still has to come down onto the pit lane. So he gets a little bit of airtime. He gets an opportunity to lead some laps, and if we get a conveniently timed yellow, he's going to benefit with a lot of track position.
The way this works out, Daniel Falkingham is some 2 seconds thereabouts behind Femi Olot, and that gap is enlarging. It's a 10-lap gap in tires between these 2 drivers, between the 18 and the 20. If you drop back to Zoltan Herzeg, however, he's just gotten onto the racetrack. We should start to see his purple times come through if he is going to have them right about now under the flag stand. Does he go purple? Not quite that time. We'll see if that changes. He's now got under 2 seconds and closing to Falkingham. So it's looking like about 4 or 5 seconds between the 18 and the 96 and then the 48 along with as Will Klein hangs around in the 5th spot. Now Scott Shire, he's still got a pit. I would imagine he will do so soon. He's been on the racetrack for some 76 laps. It's lap 98 of 150. Want to remind everybody watching this evening, these broadcasts always brought to you by some wonderful partners in Tucson Sound Art, Race Pace Setups, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, Whiplash Media, and BAM Racing Videos. If you're just joining us for the first time this evening, Eric Brennan, Trey Shuttlesworth on the call with me this evening, Emerson Arden on our social media coverage. A lot has gone on without a whole lot of yellows. We've only had the 1 caution way back about, what was it, lap 15 or so. That 1 caution, though, has started quite a lot for us. 7 lead changes, including actually none before the caution. They've all come since, with pit stops to boot. And here comes another one, as on this long run, Femi Olot blinds on by the 4-car of Scott Shire. Shire has not pitted now for 78 laps. Olot on 10-lap old tires. There's a few guys that were initially ahead of him that he undercut to get ahead of just a few seconds back. Lap traffic, that's the big story of the afternoon. You see Taylor Frey ahead. We just passed Josh Robin on board with our race leader Femi Olot, of course the Gibbs Gaming driver in the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series.
And just in front of Olot that time, you saw Robin get a little bit of a hip check there that time from the lap traffic that was trying to get underneath, and they're going to bottleneck up in turn number 3. We also should point out that 1 caution took out some drivers who we expected to run well here tonight and nearly took out our race leader. Femi Olot was the car that launched Spencer Ray skyward to kick things off in what was a multi-car crash that swept up Hayes Booth as well. We also saw Zach Lindgren have a problem prior to that. Not exactly sure what happened to Lindgren, but remember, he was just outside the cut line in championship points, so this was a chance for him to make up some ground. It's not going to happen tonight. And we also saw Justin Ford have an issue as well, but we do have a number of cars still on the lead lap here, and what has been a very, very long run since our one and only restart as we enter the final third of this race. And Olot, by virtue of some really unique and intelligent pit strategy, is now leading the field and very aggressively getting through the lappers,
forcing it 3 wide onto the entry of turn 3, and he has a lot of time to spare, about 5.5 seconds. So yeah, that is incredibly daring, but just a lot of confidence in both himself and the competitors around him from Olot. But I believe, just to update a little bit more, Zach Lindgren, I think he had some sort of technical issue. He had a forced disconnection from the server right before the green flag. Maybe it was an internet connection issue or hardware failure of some kind, but that's why he's currently sitting in last, unfortunately. So yeah, I think this sets up for a pretty interesting run to the end of the race, though, considering the fact it's about 5 seconds between the top 2, and Zoltan Herzeg has about 4 laps fresher tires. We now go back to see TCB. For the first time tonight, he is sitting in, or I think this, what I'm trying to say rather is, I think this is the longest we've seen him in decent contention late into the running, and he's currently running in the A spot, holding off Jared Darling.
He ran 4th for quite a bit after that initial restart way back about 90 laps ago, but this is a great recovery drive after some issues for him. And it looks like, no, everything's still steady up front. Just the scoring being a little bit weird with Zoltan Herczeg's name, but I rest you assured, based on timing, it is all okay. What I want to do is roll through about the top 10 or so in reverse order. So we'll start off, of course, with Chad Oxendine in the 10th position. Some 24 seconds back and about to be lapped as here comes Femi Olot in the number 18. He will put that 66 car one lap down. Oxendine, the North Wilkesboro winner. I thought this could be a driver that we'd have to watch out for this evening. He likes short tracks. This is kind of in between an intermediate and a short track. It's just not working out for him this evening, Eric, and I'll let you take 9th position.
Yeah, as we move up to 9th, how about Jared Darlin? You got to love this little bit of a throwback look to that Gatorade paint scheme. And Darlin is somebody who came out of the gate swinging at Daytona, ran very, very well, nearly snuck out a win, but he's 18th in points. This has to be a good run for him tonight. He's in the top 10, but in danger of falling a lap down if things stay as they are. But he's looking to climb up not only in the running order, but in the championship standings as well as he holds down the 9th spot.
You move up a spot ahead, and we were just talking about him a little bit ago. It's Tyrell Baker, TCB, a fan favorite, of course. And it's been such an unfortunate start to the season for him, not even sitting inside the top 20 in the point standings coming into tonight. And I don't believe he has a top 10 up to this point through the first 6 races. So that would be quite the milestone if he's able to do it. And it could be quite the momentum swing as we head into the middle stages of the season.
You see Terrell Baker and Jared Darling, they drive on by this guy. John Barry, he was in the 7th spot. Now the 6th spot, he's starting to fall back, it looks like. It was in 7th, and they'll actually pass Scott Shire, who's finally pits. But John Barry, a lot of great runs so far this season. This could be another one. He's had a lot of fantastic speed. And, of course, he's got the most laps ever turned in the NORC iRacing Series. Adding to that this evening, just a quiet night, riding around now in the 5th spot. Starting to fall backwards, though. We'll see how the tires treat him.
And how about Brent Picari, all overall points leader in Daniel Falkingham? Brent is somebody who has been quietly getting better as the season rolls on, and that Toyota Supra looks hooked up tonight. He's looking for his second top 5 of the season. He, too, is out of the 12-man chase as things sit right now for the playoffs. He's 18th in points, but if he keeps putting together runs like this, which he's been doing the last few times out, he's going to quietly work his way up there, and he's about to put it on the driver who was a 3-time winner this season in Daniel Falkingham.
And you mentioned Daniel Falkingham, an emotional win last week at Road Atlanta, and it marked his 3rd win of the season very impressively. And I think he's doing a very effective job so far tonight, considering the fact that if you look at the rest of the top 5 as Pancari tries to make his way past, he's on about 10-lap older tires. And Falkingham is also, or what I'm trying to say rather is that Falkingham didn't take tires on that initial caution flag around lap 20 or 25 or so. So he did a very effective job of just making the tires last during that very long run. And then for the time being, he's going to hang on to that 4th spot, it looks like.
You see Scott Shire in your frame. He's moving his way up now on those new tires. But we move up to 3rd place. Will Klein in the Nexus Esports Chevrolet Camaro. Very quiet now. He's starting to lose some time to Zoltan Herczeg, but we liked what we saw from this guy on the long run the last time through. I think it's only a matter of time until this car comes alive. We might see him drive back up to 2nd place and maybe even for the race lead. Keep your eye on this guy.
Earlier tonight, Zoltan Herczeg picked up his 3rd pole position of the season. He's been so good on the speedways and intermediate tracks. His first one came at Kansas. His second one came at the road course at Road Atlanta. But his one and only victory this season came at Kentucky. And it seems as though that he is a versatile driver, our reigning NORC champion, now running in the 2nd position. Look, though, he may very well be on his way to his 2nd win of the season. However, the pit strategy by Femi Olot has him now 2.3 seconds back from the leader. But Herczeg is not out of this one yet. He's masterful at getting through lap traffic, and he may be a threat to win as we still got a handful of laps left to go in this race from Dover.
And that leaves just one more, and it's one more driver at the top of the leaderboard, Femi Olot. This is his first points attempt of the season here in 2021 with the Xfinity Series car, but he did win the NORC Ton of 500, and he's just had quite the show for the Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver so far tonight. Started outside of the top 10, and he very effectively made his way through the field. And most critically, as Eric detailed a little bit earlier, is the fact that he effectively made his way through that lap 20 caution, going off of the car of Spencer Ray and somehow not suffering any damage. And then he makes the undercut work to his advantage, working on about 4 laps older tires than the driver behind him, Zoltan Herczeg. So might expect Herczeg rather to have a little bit of grip near the back end of the run, but it has been a very effective job for Olot so far through about 117 completed laps.
We flash now back to TCB. It's almost lap 120 of 150. We've been green for about 100 laps at this point, and Terrell Baker starting to fall back. You saw earlier on he was in front of this one car of Jared Darling, now falls back in behind him, and John Barry may start to go to work on this 25 car. A lot going on around the racetrack, including the fact that Will Klein, I just mentioned that he would soon come alive. He's doing exactly that. He's starting to work his way back up towards that 96. And this top trio that we've talked about so much this evening is just keeping things together nicely. Everybody's fast, everybody's clean, everybody's consistent. And I love that we've got the comer and goer aspect, especially with just the 48 and the 96. We're yet to see, I think, because of the heavy lap traffic influence, though, exactly how this 18 car will transition over the course of the run. With 31 laps to go that time by the flag stand, Derek, who knows what's going to happen to the 26-time NORC iRacing Series race winner. And now he's, again, has to deal with this heavy lap traffic working by Colby, and will have to work by Chad Oxendine.
And Oxendine has been doing a really good job trying to stay on the lead lap. He's been in front of this leader now for what appears to be the last 10 laps or so. You mentioned the North Wilkesboro winner, desperate to try to maintain his position in the top 10 right now. He's running in 9th, but to lose a lap here, and if we were to see Femi Olak get up and around John Barry up ahead, that may put Oxendine out of contention should we catch a caution. But I agree, the rubber band effect is in full swing, because look at the gap now. We've seen Will Klein prove, as you mentioned, that he's got a long run car. We're also seeing Herczeg start to fall up. We praise Femi Olaf because of the undercut and the lead that it gave him after the pit strategy call, but we're starting to see it swing back the other way. It's taken a little while, but it's going to pay off in the long run, and that lead is starting to shrink, not just amongst the top 2, but across the top 3.
Yeah, fortunately for Olad, he's going to have a lot of lap traffic, and he'll have to figure out how to effectively maneuver it and work it to his advantage, so that could very easily be a disadvantage for him as the race leader. But it does have to be concerning, just because when he came out of the pit lane and his competitors came out of the pit lane, he probably had an advantage of about 5 or 6 seconds, and it has dwindled quite drastically here, about halfway into what would be a full run here.
The unfortunate thing for Femi is he's coming up on position battles. The next 3 cars are all battling for the same position on the racetrack. We've got TCB, and he's going to send Chad Oxendine the save from the 66 car, but Femi had to get on by that battle, and he shows, oh my gosh, and Chad Oxendine about cut off the nose of the 96 car. Now Will Klein is going to join this little gaggle, and he's going to try and go by the 66 car as well, and he'll finally get on by, I'd imagine. Femi was starting to get a bit frustrated, shows it there, gets on by. But what I was going to talk about was the fact that these drivers, these lap drivers, are going to put on a heavier fight for the race leader. Once they're lapped down, they tend to move over just a little bit easier for the remaining drivers that are about to lap them. And especially as you go higher up this running order, as you start to lap these guys inside the top 10, close to the top 5 even, it's just going to get tougher.
Yeah, right now Olat's going to find himself down to the bottom. TCB gives him room. First off, what a save by Chad Oxendine. Secondly, how lucky for the second time tonight was Olat not to be swept up by that semi-sideways car. Here's Herczeg and Klein continuing to knife their way through the lap traffic inside of John Berry, with Sheldon Lockey coming up on the backside. He may have taken tires late, has that of Lockey. He has not been in the mix pretty much all day long. It's been an unfortunate run for Sheldon, but he looks a little bit faster, at least has similar pace to our second and third place runners. As this fight rages on, boy, that looks like it might have been close between TCB, and I believe that may have been the Daytona winner, and Cody Miller it is. The top 2, or I should say second and third, get by cleanly.
And the fortunate thing, and as I say this, I do have to address the fact that we are going to see a lot of ridiculous closing rates for these drivers up front to deal with over the last 20 laps or so. But fortunately for Femiola, he's not going to run into any drivers trying to fend for their life to stay on the lead lap, or any battles for position for about 10 seconds, because Daniel Folkingham is the next driver, and he's about 13 seconds behind the race leader. Make it about 10 seconds until he gets to the back of that 20 car.
Yeah, a lot of space in this top 5, although they're all within a half a lap or so of one another. Folkingham 13.5 seconds back of Femi, and we could maybe see that gap grow to where maybe Daniel gets close to going a lap down, but I think he should be okay. What's intriguing is this 69 car in the middle of the 96 and the 48, and Sheldon will move over, and he'll let, it looks like, Will Klein go back on by. So I like that sportsmanship from Sheldon Lockie. He realized that he was starting to impede on that battle, got out of the way, lets them keep racing. That's very important, and a very, very nice move from the 69 car. Further back, we were showing you Terrell Baker starting to slide. He loses that 7th spot to Chad Oxendine, who suddenly is starting to move back up the running order. John Barry is right in behind this 25 car, and Elijah Drew Gracia is closing. In fact, he's right behind these guys. He'll try and go to the inside of Cody Miller, and all of these battles across the racetrack are starting to pick up. 20 laps to go at Dover.
We saw Herczeg cut into the lead by about 0.2 of a second the last time through, and I want to echo something that Trey Shuttlesworth said the last time that he had the microphone in hand. The closing rates are going to be, in his words, ridiculous, and I want to echo that because we are going to see some drivers who had to come down for tires later, maybe even elect to do so because it's going to help them in their respective battles. I mean, we've only got 6 cars on the lead lap. That's incredible, with Jared Darling now in danger of going a lap down to your leader, Femi Olot, but cue the Jaws music because these two and Herczeg and Klein are really starting to make up some time on Olot, and with the lap traffic on differing tire strategies in the mix, this could get interesting here as we are under 20 to go.
It has seemed like for the top 3, their tires seem to be about the same level of grip, even though the top, or rather I should say Herczeg and Klein are still closing, but they're not closing quite as quickly as they were, say, 10 or 20 laps ago. So I think we're really getting to see, you might see that really golden opportunity of, it's one thing to catch a driver and it's an entirely different thing to pass them. I think we're going to probably see a pretty golden example of that here in a little bit.
And this gap continues to close. I'm not so sure exactly how this is going to work out for the 18 car, but he's going to have to put on one hell of a fight if he wants to stay ahead of Zoltan Herczeg and Will Klein as they continue to close under a second and continuing to just shrink this gap. It's going to work out. I wish we had the gap indicator, the gap predictor like F1 does, as Cheney gives way to the 20, or sorry, he is the 24, gives way to the 96 and 48. You see Spencer Owens in this little group as well. Shuttle Lockie moves in front of Bobby Cheney, but I wish we had that predictor to tell us when this 96 was kind of scheduled, if you will, to catch the 18 car. I would have to imagine that it would be in about the next 10 laps. We should expect, I would think, at least 5 laps of battle to the end. This is shaping up for a fantastic little finish between these guys. Femi, he's got his work cut out for him. Save his tires as best as he can, much like that Max Verstappen this past weekend at Barcelona, while also going as fast as he can. And Zoltan Herczeg, I think, just has to go fast right now and stay ahead of Will Klein. What do you do then if you're Will Klein? We didn't see 3 cars in the battle at Barcelona. It was just the Red Bull and the Mercedes. This adds a new element. This is interesting.
And the last few laps, we've seen Herczeg and Klein be about a half a tenth quicker at minimum than that of Olot. We mentioned that rubber band effect. I mean, the undercut worked early, but we're getting towards the tail end of this run, and this may be where pitting a lap or lap and a half later than that of Olot starts to come back to Herczeg and Klein's favor, and we have noted just how good Will Klein is on the longer run, and that's exactly what he's going to get here to close this race out. Now, in the event we do see a yellow flag, which that has not been the theme here so far tonight, these drivers do have tires left in the pits. We would expect everybody to come down and put on a fresh set of rubber for a shootout to the finish. But the way that this race has gone, I expect things to stay green. We'll see how it unfolds. But here comes Herczeg and Klein. It's now a half second across the top 3.
Of course, anything can and will happen at Dover. Fortunately for us, we get to see it happen over the next 10 or 11 laps or so here. But as you said, Eric, it just continues to get tighter and tighter. And I think the thing that's going to be really interesting, you look beyond Jared Darling, and it seems like there's just miles and miles of clean racetrack ahead. Don't expect that to last all the way to the end of the running, but it's something that these drivers might have to take into account, that they might get a little bit of a just pure chance for the 3 of them to go all out and race each other.
Well, the good news is, even if they catch somebody who's 2, 3, 4 laps down, whatever, they don't have anybody else that is on the lead lap until Daniel Falkingham, some 11 seconds further up the road. So they should be clear of the guys who really got to hang on to this lead lap. They should be able to keep getting on by them, but Zoltan Herczeg, for all intents and purposes, is on the back end and has caught the 18 of Femi Olot. 10 laps to go. That 5-lap prediction, double it. Let's see what happens.
I think if you're Herczeg, you got to beat Olot getting off the corner. That's going to be your best chance to perhaps draw alongside. Look at him with a late apex here. Gets that car right down to the bottom. He's going to look. Olot fades left. Herczeg trying to get the fender inside. He's got Olot off the bottom. We're wheel to wheel for the lead out of turn 2. That's close as they come out of the corner.
And a lot of respect between the two drivers shown as we go off of the exit of the corner. Now this time to the 3. It's still a lot of give and a lot of respect between these two. Looks like as we come off of 4, the advantage might go to Herczeg. In fact, he is going to clear the 18 of Olot and in fact move Klein clear back into the second position. And I think we still have a duel between the top 2, but it might be the end of the running, barring a caution flag for Femi Olot.
Femi gives it up, and if you recall back to the NORC Classic, it was those two drivers, Femi Olot and Zoltan Herczeg, doing battle. Herczeg came out on top of that one as well, gets the best of the driver in the NASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series, and Femi drops to 3rd position, but he's got quite the gap back to Brett Pincari. I think at this point, he just needs to keep himself within relative distance to these drivers in case something happens, be it one of them slowing down or possibly a caution flag coming out. And Jared Darling in front of these two. Darling on the lead lap, turning a season around this evening, 6th spot, but he does have to give way to these two, and Will Klein will follow on by. So, it's a heads-up duel in Dover. Who comes out on top of this one? 6 laps to find out.
Next lap car on line is going to give way. I believe that was Tom Mercier who went up the racetrack. Here's the storyline, though. These two have been attached to the hip all night long. It wasn't until very late in one part of this race, before the pit stop took place, that we saw Klein able to get up and around Herczeg, albeit momentarily, and then they came down the pit lane together. Herczeg gets checked up by Freilich a little bit there, and we may have clean racetrack to the checkered flag where these two could settle it amongst themselves. The question is, who has the better car at this point in the race? It's Klein with a bit of a run off turn 2, not close enough to draw even, but they are locked together in 3, battling for the lead and win at Dover.
And as we come out of turn 4 this time by, it will be officially 4 laps to go, and it's about a full straightaway to the next lap car. I get the feeling that might come into play, but if not, I think these two are still going to put on quite the show here. Not too much left here at Dover International Speedway. We go through the middle of the corner there, and it looks like Klein closes up quite a bit, but it's going to be about dead even down the back straightaway. This time by, it'll be 3 laps remaining at Dover.
3 laps, 3 miles to go for these two, Zoltan Herczeg and Will Klein. They've been around one another all race long, like Eric said, conjoined at the hip, and they'll do battle for 3 more laps. Will Klein better on the long run. Zoltan Herczeg, I think, a little more well-rounded overall. The champion of Season 12 now has to fend off one of the best, one of the most aggressive, one of the most calculated drivers in the 48, 2 laps to go.
And you see Klein's got the bit between his teeth. They're going to catch TCB, who gets well up out of the way. Great move by Tyrell Baker to get out of the way. 2 laps to go. Klein trying different approaches to the corner. Herczeg hugging the bottom of the racetrack. He caught the apron a lap ago. Klein with a big run out of 2. They head down the back straightaway where the white flag will be waiting. Next time by, top 2 trying to settle it amongst themselves.
And you saw Klein get a little bit of a wider arc in the entry of the corner, and he definitely got a big run off the back straightaway, but it wasn't quite enough to make an overtake happen. He's going to be a couple car lengths back. Only 1 mile left to go here at Dover International Speedway.
Barney the Flagman flew that white silk high above these two that time by, and Zoltan Herczeg starting to eke out more and more of a gap. It's going to have to be a big send here into turn number 3, and Will Klein is just way too far back, barring a huge mistake up out of the corner. Zoltan Herczeg will exit turn number 4 and collect checkered flag number 2 on the season. Zoltan Herczeg is your Dover International Speedway race winner in NORC iRacing Series Season 13.
And how about the run for Will Klein? Comes up a little over 0.2 of a second short of being able to grab himself a win in this series after a topsy-turvy start. And Femi Olot, pitch strategy and all, the late leader, I bet he wishes this race was about 10 laps shorter, rounds out our top 3 finishers here with only 1 caution in this 150-lap affair in a race that started 31 cars. How about the talent in this NORC field?
Yeah, all across the board. I don't know where to begin, Eric, just because there was an incredible show up front. A lot of respect shown by drivers in letting the lap car, or the leaders rather, through. It's just all around an incredible show at a racetrack that can, sometimes be quite chaotic. I think tonight we saw the best of Dover International Speedway. Only 1 yellow flag for what started as, a pretty routine incident, and it turned pretty sour, and At the end of the day, it's Zoltan Hertzeg, and he joins the likes of Daniel Folkingham as a multi-time winner this season.
Zoltan Hertzeg the second to 2 victories, and I'd have to imagine this will be Daniel Folkingham's closest and possibly only competition as far as the championship goes this season. We didn't see Tyler Justice this evening. Who knows what we've got in store the rest of the way in NORC iRacing Series 13. You've got to stand by. You've got to watch through the rest of the season. You've got to find out. This race sets us up for a very compelling run to the start of the chase. Boy, a lot happened this evening at Dover. We'll be back in just a moment to recap and talk to our top 3 finishers from the Dover International Speedway. Zoltan Hertzeg wins it. Will Klein second place. Femi Olot third. Don't go anywhere. This is coverage of the NORC iRacing Series on Pit Stop TV.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it is that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Welcome back to Pit Stop TV and continuing coverage of the NORC iRacing Series. Before we get to talk to our top 3, I want to remind you that these broadcasts are always brought to you by Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music, Race Pace Setup Shop, Pick Up Pace with Race Pace, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, where you deserve the best care that money can buy, Whiplash Media. Go to pitstoptv.com for more information. They are the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV, and by BAM Racing Videos, by a race fan for the racing community. Zoltan Hertzeg wins in a late race, green flag, long run. What else can you add to that one? Thriller. just eking out the victory over Will Klein and Femiola. We bring in then the driver of the 96, now winning for the second time this season. In Dover, not quite an intermediate like Kentucky, but I'd have to imagine that in that long run, you had to start thinking about strategy much like you did at Kentucky, Zoltan. What was your plan and how did you get this race win?
My plan was to just try to keep the tires on it, but that kind of went out the window that last run. I was like, all right, Femi's got a huge lead, so I got to try to get there. I didn't think I'd have enough time, so I didn't even save tires. I was just full out the whole run, and luckily we were able to get over there, and luckily I was able to stay in front of Will. And again, I'm really bad on getting onto pit road and getting off of pit road, and I know I slowed up Will a little bit just because he was just stuck behind me on the apron. But yeah, glad I was able to stay in front of Will. I know he was the main competition, and then Daniel just he stayed out that one run, that one caution, and I think that really screwed his race. I knew it was gonna be maybe like the three of us battling at the end. But that was just a lot of fun. I really love this track.
And so for the first time all season, we get to really see a true run to the end over the course of well over 100 miles. Of course, we had a lot of green flag racing at Kansas. Can you draw any comparisons possibly? And do you think we have more races like this on the way?
Yeah, just like they were both tight cars, so you really just had to be very disciplined with the right front and take it easy and be patient on getting back into the throttle and things like that. That's really the only way I can compare it to Kansas. Other than that, they're kind of really big different tracks. But yeah, and hopefully we continue to do this. One caution, I'm pretty sure one caution this whole race, and that's really awesome because it's a great way to learn how to be better at this game with these long green flag runs. And I really need that.
Yeah, it's definitely a big change up from races that we've had, like North Wilkesboro, for example. So how do you prepare for a racetrack like Homestead Miami Speedway? We could see a lot of the same, but we could also see, of course, everybody wants to fight either to the top side, maybe down to the bottom if that's what they prefer. Everybody's fighting for a line. It's very line dependent. Do you think we'll see a race like this? One caution, a lot of green flag, a lot of pit stops, or do you think we'll see a race a little closer to North Wilkesboro where the field stays grouped together?
I'm hoping it stays green. There's a lot of room to run on that track, and if you can run multiple grooves, it's going to be awesome, and you'll see like that huge run off the I side, and then people trying to just stay in true to the bottom, trying to save tire, and it should be really interesting how it's going to play out. I haven't raced at Homestead since they did that update. I don't even know if they updated that track, to be honest, but hopefully there's some good side-by-side racing. It should be fun.
I guess we'll find out in 1 week's time. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to shout out for this second win on the season, Zoltan?
I got to thank everybody for keeping it clean. It was really awesome battling for the lead, battling for the top three when you're driving by lap traffic. Everybody was just real clean and just really fun racing. You don't really see that much. And I got to thank you guys for broadcasting. It's awesome going back watching these races. You guys do a great job. And, of course, I got to thank everybody watching.
Certainly appreciate the kind words there. Congratulations this evening, Zoltan. Another big step towards a championship battle with Daniel Falkingham. We'll see how it plays out in the coming weeks. Enjoy this one. Have a great night, and I'm sure we'll talk to you next week at Homestead.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Zoltan Herczeg grabs another race win this season in pretty dominating fashion. The race didn't always feel like it was Zoltan's, but 87 laps led and always being in the conversation, certainly a great start, or I guess a great way to continue a fantastic season so far. But he had to do it narrowly over this guy, finishing in second place, and I'll turn things over to Eric Brennan.
Thanks a lot, Andrew, and we're going to have a chance now to talk to Will Klein, who, Will, I know the season didn't start out the way you wanted, but believe it or not, coming into tonight, you led the most laps out of a driver who has yet to go to victory lane. You had 55 laps led coming into this race. You picked up 10 more in here at Dover tonight. What was the missing ingredient there? I know that you and Zoltan were pretty much tied together throughout the race. Do you think maybe if you would have played the pit strategy a little bit different, you would have had an edge? What were you missing there in the latter stages to try to get up there and get your first win of the season?
Clean air. That's about it, man. The dirty air was absolutely horrendous when you were right on somebody. You couldn't do anything.
Now, it seemed like you did have a really good long-run car. The more laps that we ran, the more faster that it seemed that car was able to be for you. I saw you switching up the line there late. You mentioned clean air being the one ingredient that you were missing there towards the end. I think maybe if you just had more lap traffic at the end, it would have given you a little bit more of a shot. It looked like you could move that car around a little bit there.
I should have. I probably shouldn't have laid off so much to save. I tried saving more tire in response to the dirty air, but maybe I should have tried to have gotten the track position first. But Zoltan was pretty good on old tires. I just I couldn't really do much when I was stuck behind him about a few tenths. So.
Well, the series kind of continues this move since we got off the road course last week. We had Dover tonight, Homestead next week. It's a track that is really unique in its own right, similar in characteristic as far as banking on the straightaways and the corners and whatnot, but really you could run from the wall to the apron. What are your thoughts as we head to Homestead 1 week from tonight? Is that going to be the place where perhaps we can get this monkey off the back and get into victory lane?
I hope so, man. I do love me some good mile-and-a-half racetracks. It may be the unpopular opinion, but I reserve my judgment. I love all mile-and-a-halves, and Homestead's another good one. So, I hope so.
Well, you picked up your third top 5 of the season. You continue to climb up the championship standings. Looks like you're catching your stride when it matters most, as we, of course, still have a handful of races left to go before we set the stage for the playoffs towards the end. Who do you have to thank for the second-place finish here tonight, Will?
I'd like to thank John for putting on the league, you guys for broadcasting, for everybody watching.
All right, well, great job tonight, man. Thanks for making it interesting. You guys were battling for the lead all race long. It really kept us on our toes, and we hope to see more of that at Homestead, and we hope to be talking to you after the race there with a trophy in hand. Will, great job tonight, buddy.
Okay, thank you.
And again, that is Will Klein, our runner-up this evening after a strong performance here at Dover. As we mentioned, all throughout the race was in contention for the lead and win. Came up just one spot shy, but he is certainly catching a hot streak here at a good time in the season. Now I'm going to turn it over to Trey Shuttlesworth, who has another one of our front-running finishers from tonight's 150 lapper at Dover.
Thank you, Eric. And it's going to be a driver that, while he missed out on the top 5 by just one spot here tonight, it's still going to be a very respectable 6th position for Jared Darling in what has admittedly been a pretty rough start to the season. So, Jared, initially getting out of the car, what did it take to walk away with a top 10 tonight?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's nice to finally just get a decent finish. It's been an awful, awful start to my season, but I'm really happy, but at the same time a little disappointed because I did that strategy with Daniel, so we were at a disadvantage really the whole race, and I didn't have a lot of confidence coming into today. I didn't qualify. Just Dover's, I usually is one of my worst ovals, and I don't know, mid-race, it took me a while to figure it out, and I got to shout out Tom Mercier. He kind of gave me a few pointers in the middle of the race, and I figured it out, and I felt pretty good there. I just wish we could have had one more caution, again, even tires with all the leaders, and I think we could have raced some for the top 5 for sure. But it's really good to, first of all, talk to you guys finally and get a decent finish, and hopefully it's just a sign of things to turn around and can continue this momentum. I mean, 6 isn't where I want to be. I want to win, obviously, but we're getting there, so we'll just keep digging.
That's a great point that you make about going on that off-sequence strategy pretty early into the running. How did you have to adjust knowing that you were slightly off pace, and then also had to take into account that, you just couldn't go quite as far in terms of both fuel and tires?
Yeah, just had to take it easy and be really careful and just give the people room and realize that there's going to be, the closing rate's going to be massive. And I mean, obviously it was. I just did the best I could to stay out of the guy's way. And like I said, I mean, I just wish we had a chance to be on the same tires as them. I never expected to go green the whole way from lap, whatever that was, that first the only caution we had. So sucks didn't work out that way, but I still came back and passed some guys that had a lot fresher tires than me. So felt really good in the long run tonight, and it was very encouraging. I'm really happy with my run tonight.
So yeah, we will walk away from Dover and we'll go to a track that shares, a couple of characteristics, but in a lot of ways it's still much, much different from Dover. We'll head to Homestead. What are your expectations going in? And what will your practice regimen look like?
Yeah, I mean, Homestead's been a good track for me at times. I would say this car, it has been of a struggle for me compared to either, the truck or the Cup car. But yeah, Homestead's a great track. It's fun. Hopefully we're able to, not just be single file and there's options there. Sometimes there can be there, and Homestead's a really fun track. I like the 1.5 miles. It's probably my strong suit, besides some short tracks. And so I'm looking forward to Homestead. Hopefully we can continue on and get another, hopefully at least get back up in the top 5 where I feel like I should be.
All right, thank you, Jared. I think that's about all I have in terms of questions. Before you head out tonight, anyone you'd like to thank, friends, family, sponsor-wise, for a pretty impressive 6th place run tonight?
Yeah, I got to shout out John Barry for the league. We've been doing this for years. I've been with these guys since, probably 2012, some of these guys. I mean, it's always fun to be here on every Tuesday night. And you guys for your incredible broadcast. I have to give you guys a lot of credit. I mean, you guys are excellent, and I love going back and watching these races, and I can't wait to go back and watch this one. Shout out to Tom for the points during the race. It really, really helped, and gotta shout out my good friend Josh Foster out there watching. I think he's watching right now, so thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
All right, thank you for your time, Jared. Congrats again on the 6th place run, and hope to talk to you more as we get later into the season.
All right, have a good night, guys.
And that will conclude our interview session. Got to speak to a lot of drivers that are pretty happy and have a lot to walk away with from Dover tonight, I'd have to say.
Certainly. I say this so often. It's always good to talk to these drivers, and especially guys that are pretty optimistic about their seasons. And I also like them acknowledging some of the challenges with these race cars, these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars. We talked about it a lot, Eric. Certainly very challenging, and I think sending these drivers for a bit of a loop, quite literally sometimes. We're used to covering the NASCAR Cup Series vehicles a lot, the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 1LE, the Ford Mustang, the Toyota Camry, but change things up to these Xfinity Chevrolet Camaros, Ford Mustangs, and Toyota Supras. Everything's different. Of course, they look relatively similar maybe to an outsider, but everything is different. The way they race is different. The way they well, of course, I guess the way they race encompasses a whole lot, but you get the point. Everything's different. I personally, I think I'm in the majority of liking this package a little bit better. I think I like the races these cars produce a little better. These long runs, these fantastic pit cycles, and the fact that we ran over 100 laps continuously green, I think, was a big step in a very, very good direction the rest of the season. We'll take a look at how that affects, though, the race results, and it changes things up quite a lot from what we've seen the last few weeks. Zoltan Herczeg grabbing another race win isn't too surprising, honestly, but Will Klein grabbing 2nd place is pretty encouraging for his season. Femi Olot, in his first start of the season, grabbing a podium as well. Pretty big honors there, grabbing bronze. Brett Pincari, worth noting, he hangs on to the lead lap and to the 4th place position over Daniel Falkingham. Jared Darling, we talked to him, he finishes 6th place. The first car 1 lap down, if you can believe it. Chad Oxendiner covers to 7th, a late race drive there. Elijah Gracia finishes in the 8th position. And Ariati, somebody who has won here at Dover before, but yet to go all the way back to season 6 in 2017 when he won here. He finishes inside the top 10, just in front of John Barry.
Now we look at our second page of results here with David Shutt. We saw him go down a lap early with a little bit of damage. Was still able to bounce back for an 11th place finish. I know it's 1 spot shy of a top 10, but still something to be proud of considering how the race started. Same for Howie Briss. He was one of the first cars we saw impact the wall. He caught the caution shortly thereafter, came back for 12th. Scott Shire led a couple laps in this race, was off pit strategy, came home 13th. And Tyrell Baker is somebody who really looked strong after that pit call that was made on the one and only yellow, faded back to 14th. Tom Mercier at speed all night. Remember, he was swept up in that first crash. Still ends up with a top 15 finish. Patrick Colby, quiet night for him. Ended up 16th. Aaron Smith, 17th. Daytona winner Cody Miller, 18th. Taylor Frey with a quiet night as well in one of his few starts in the NORC calendar in 2021 thus far. 19th. And Sean Williams, your top 20.
We'll look at the final 11 drivers. Sheldon Lockey, he faces fair share of troubles tonight in terms of pit strategy and such. It's going to be a 21st place finish tonight. That'll be Josh Robin, one of those drivers that we saw get a pretty hard hit into the outside wall, I believe, during the middle stages of the race. And then it'll also be Cole Freilich, 23rd place, 3 laps down. Next, we see Spencer Owens, 9 laps down, in the 24th position. Bobby Chaney, 15 laps down. Michael Keithley is going to finish 23 laps down in the 26th position. Making his season debut, it's down Dallas Myhan. He's not even going to complete 50 laps tonight. It'll be 27th place for him. Justin Ford also faced his fair share of troubles tonight. it's going to be 28th place finish for him, 111 laps down. We saw Femi Olak go over and make pretty critical contact, yet he was able to walk away from that incident with Spencer Raitt, who finishes 29th place, 129 laps down. And then the bad luck very simply continues for Hayes Booth as he finishes 30th place, 130 laps down. Then Zach Lindgren does not take the green flag after some sort of technical issue that disconnects him from the server right before the green flag tonight.
So 31 drivers in total showed this evening, even if the 31st of those didn't make it quite to the start of this one. Again, a lot went on this evening, I think. A lot, much like last night with the BRP Racing Series, a lot tonight is going to help shape the future of the NORC iRacing Series, specifically here in Season 13. I think this was a great look at what we can expect the rest of the way through. And let's revisit quickly the schedule for the NORC iRacing Series. Daytona, Kansas, Michigan, North Wilkesboro, Kentucky, Road Atlanta, and Dover now in the books. Homestead next week. The iRacing Super Speedway. That one, it always makes me chuckle a little bit, but I am a big fan of that one being on the schedule. I'm a fan of those 67 laps that will run in week number 9. Iowa is going to be interesting, a nice little short track. It kind of drives a bit like an intermediate, but truly a short track. It's 7/8 of a mile in the Iowa cornfields. Nashville, not Nashville Super Speedway. Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway is going to be interesting at race number 11 as well. We, of course, have the Auto Club Speedway at race number 12, the Talladega Duels, Martinsville, another short track, Road America, another road course, the Atlanta Motor Speedway, 130 laps in race 17, Legacy Daytona, 80 laps to finish out the regular season. Eric, you touched on the chase earlier on. Indianapolis, Texas, Bristol Dirt, Darlington, Phoenix, Chicagoland, Vegas. A lot is yet to go on, but I think we've gotten a great sample size so far. If I had to guess, I'd say Dover will play nicely for guys at Homestead, possibly Iowa, I'd say even Nashville. This is a driver's track. I think that's going to translate to some of those tracks as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I go back to what you were talking about initially in your first point was this car. This car produces good racing at every venue on the slate. I mean, sometimes you would see it on some Cup Series leagues that guys would dread going to some of the mile-and-a-half tracks or even some of the short tracks where even there it could be a little bit harder to get power down and make some move for tires to wear. This track is tough. This is good racing and enough.
Bit of a mic trouble there for Eric, but I think he was just getting to the fact that these cars put on some fantastic racing. We've seen some NASCAR Cup Series style leagues in the past give us some pretty good racing, certainly in the short run. Who knows how it sometimes goes over those long runs, but I like this drivers package along with these drivers racetracks that we're visiting this season. I think it's given us a great product so far here, Trey. Certainly fantastic stuff through and through, and we've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and in a way, it feels like I could continue to talk in circles, but I think there's a lot we can say about both the schedule and the car, and you combine the car with a lot of these racetracks, and as Eric was alluding to, you can really make a lot of fun for both driver, spectator, broadcaster, really regardless of the type of racetrack with the type of stock car we have that's currently utilized in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, or referred to as the B car on iRacing. It's just a lot of fun. It's a car that you have to wrestle quite aggressively. Has a fair amount of horsepower, nothing ridiculous. It's something you can get into and get around a racetrack with, but it takes a lot to master, and I think it just creates a very, very unique challenge. And yeah, we saw a race tonight where drivers were having to wrestle a car at a track that's very technically demanding, and it ended up with only, I believe, 5 cars in the lead lap, but it was still a lot of fun.
And we've seen races like this in the NASCAR Cup Series as of late. I think you certainly have to go back to the 2018 and prior package, low downforce, high horsepower, where you saw Martin Truex Jr. sometimes scoot away to some pretty incredible leads and put all but the top 4 or 5 one lap down or more. We saw that kind of race this evening, but the action was there through and through, whether it was for the race lead, even if it was for 5th, even if it was for 15th, 25th, it didn't matter. We had fantastic action, great battles, and that's what you've got to look for. That's what you've got to focus on in these kinds of races. I'm so happy that we get that opportunity to do so. I love being able to bring these races to all of you NORC fans, and I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and sticking with us through the post-race as well. It's so important, and by all means, you viewers, please pat yourselves on the back. I really do appreciate, we all really appreciate you sticking through this post-race coverage and hearing what the drivers have to say, hearing our final thoughts, and close the broadcast. It's pretty incredible that we have very, very dedicated viewers here at the NORC iRacing Series, and dedicated fans as well. This really gives us a fantastic product with which to do amazing things with here on the iRacing.com platform, on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter channels, even on Instagram. A lot of great stuff here with the NORC iRacing Series, and a lot of great stuff from our partners here at Pit Stop TV. Of course, Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. Make sure to use promo code PitStopTV at checkout to grab 10% off of your order. Of course, these broadcasts brought to you by Race Pace Setups. Pick up pace with Race Pace, whether it's a GT3 car, Porsche Cup car, even a Dallara IR18, one of the Indy cars. They've got fantastic setups lately. We actually won an endurance race with the help of Race Pace Setups. It was the Creventic 12 Hours of Spa not so long ago. We won that GT3 race. That was a fun time. Trey, you were alongside with it. It was a fantastic race, and it only went that way because of the setup that we had from Race Pace. If we didn't quite have anything quite like that, we would have been backwards and Blanchemont like so many others. It was a fantastic drive in that Lamborghini Huracan. These broadcasts, of course, also brought to you by, though, Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine, where you deserve the best care that money can buy. Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV, and by BAM Racing Videos, by a race fan for the racing community. It looks like we have lost Eric Brennan for the evening, but of course we'll have him back very, very soon in future broadcasts. And speaking of future broadcasts, before we go, I want to remind you that you can watch plenty more Pit Stop TV action here on the channel throughout the coming days. Be it tomorrow night with the BRP Asphalt Modified Tour with Aaron Smith in the field. They'll head down to USA International Speedway for round 4 of their season. We've even got the LTAC Cup Series on Friday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll have Cross Series League racing from Summit Point Jefferson Circuit Reverse on Sunday evening. We'll then turn things back around into our new week of league racing, the BRP iRacing Series Pro Dirt Late Models on Monday, the Pacific Challenge Cup Series on Monday night as well, a doubleheader Monday nights, basically from 8 to midnight. You've got fantastic action through and through. That is in Eastern Time, 8 to midnight. Make sure to be around with us. And then, of course, 1 week's time, we bring these guys back to the channel. We'll be racing at the Homestead Miami Speedway, the 1.5-mile truly shaped oval that the High Line is going to be dominant at. I would expect that. Bottom line could surprise you, though. We've got a lot to watch out for next week at Homestead, but that will conclude our coverage tonight of the NORC iRacing Series at the virtual Dover International Speedway. We at Pit Stop TV thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Before we go, make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/pitstoptv, on Instagram at at pit_stop_TV, on Twitter at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1. For all of Pit Stop TV, Eric Brennan and Trey Shuttlesworth, alongside myself, Andrew Cardinale the fourth this evening on mic, and Emerson Arden on social media. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time. Have a great night.